There you are.
Hi.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. I thought
Good.
I wasn't. I thought I was gonna able to use these, but I guess not.
It's not working? There.
Yeah, no, but it's fine. I can hear you very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining me and coming onto this interview series.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm very excited and delighted.
I know it's been a while since we've actually seen each other in person, so
I know,
I
yeah.
you
And it's
did.
been a while. It's been a while also for me to do interviews live.
Okay.
It's been yeah. So it's really good to do this.
Yeah,
So
to
I'm
put
a little bit
it
out of practice, but
in. Yeah, this is, I mean, I like to keep things pretty informal and fun, so um, and yeah, I think I'm just excited that you're gonna be on and share your story. So if we can get started if you want to just give a brief intro and tell people about who you are and what you do, where you're from.
yeah, of course. So my name is Alex Alburqueque, and I am originally from Peru, Lima, Peru, and but I've been living in the U.S. for like around 26 years. So I've been here for a while. I did my vocal studies at Montgomery College at Rockville campus, and then I went to University of Maryland, where I studied with Dominic Koza. My voice range, well, I'm an opera singer, and my voice range is baritone. So there's a lot of us out there, and but yeah, that's me.
Great. We'll have to get more into what baritone because I was like, I don't even actually know what that means. I had to look it up, so you can explain that in a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'll give you everyone a brief intro too, because I'm sure you have people on here that follow you and may not have heard about me or what I'm doing. So I'm a positive psychology coach, and I help individuals kind of align their interests, passions, and strengths into the work that they want to do. And positive psychology, I like to describe it as a way to basically optimize what you already do well. So building on your strengths and then I want to, let everyone know how I know Alex. So Alex is a brother of two, a close friend of mine, and then brother-in-law. So his sister is Carla, who is a brand and graphic designer, and very talented. And I was like, wow, you guys have a family of artists, creative people, and your brother-in-law also is a good friend of mine. Woo, and we
Yep.
played soccer together before, not in a while though because of COVID. So hopefully
Right.
it'll be soon again, maybe this summer. So
Right. And the last time that you and I played soccer, you scored 3 times on me while I was at the goal. So
I don't even
good
remember.
memories. Good memories.
That's funny you remember that. And I wanted, so why I like to do these interviews, I call them Passion Stories series. I love doing these because I've always loved hearing people's stories, whether it's listening to podcasts or reading memoirs, people's biographies. And it's just always fascinated me how people arrive where they are, the journey they go on and what they learn, kind of how they weave into like where they are today. And I personally always get ideas and inspiration from hearing people's stories, especially now with COVID. For me, I feel like you got to really pull the inspiration and motivation out
Yeah,
there. So,
exactly.
my hope is that these will give other people ideas, and hearing somebody else's story of how they, may have done something different, unique, outside the box, or tried things that they are passionate about and it found success, and maybe not initially, but my hope is people hearing these will get inspiration, ideas, maybe get motivated. And I think it's also a great way for you and people on here to share your story, talk about
Yeah.
that you are passionate about. And I wanted to talk to Alex today because you've been able to carve out a career out of the things you're passionate about, as an artist and a creative person. And I think it's very unique. I know in your bio, it also mentions you've been teaching piano for a long time. I grew up
Right.
playing piano, but
Yeah.
I've lost a lot of that skill set.
Oh, we're gonna have to get together and get some sing-alongs then.
Yeah, yeah. So, I wanted you to come on and share your story and how you've been able to navigate, creating work and, your professional path with this thing that is such a unique skill. I don't know any other opera singers. So I think it's really cool. And I wanted, other people to hear about
Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Definitely.
So the first question I wanted to get into was just, and this may go way back, even before you were living in the US, what initially got you interested in singing opera?
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well, it all started. It's funny because it did started actually when I was still in Peru. It's kind of like the seed that started everything.
Yeah.
So I remember I was probably like, I want to say 9 or 10 years old, and it was Christmas, and my dad came. It was around Christmas time, so my dad came home one day and brought as a present for all of us, the kids,
Mm-hmm.
for my siblings and I. He came with a small keyboard, piano keyboard, and I remember that it was a Casio brand piano keyboard. And I remember that we were, excited because it was the first time that we had an actual instrument in the house. So we started playing around with it a little bit, and I felt that my interest for music started there. It was just that little simple keyboard that started everything. And I think my dad and my mom noticed my interest um, when they brought that home. Uh, around that time, around that year, is when we were planning to come to the U.S. So, we got busy doing that. So eventually we came to the U.S. And I think my dad remembered that moment where he probably saw the interest in me of just music. So a couple of years after we were in the U.S., my dad asked me, or my parents, both of them, asked me if I wanted to learn how to play the piano.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll give it a try. So I was 14 years old, and that's when I started playing the piano or having piano lessons for the first time. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I was like, well, this is great. This is awesome. Um, when high school arrived, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do piano. I knew that I wanted to do something in music. I just didn't know if I wanted to pursue the piano.
Mm-hmm.
I had already been playing for like 3 years, so but it wasn't there. So interestingly enough, I was gonna go to Montgomery College. I was going to this community college in Rockville, and Carla, Carla, my sister,
Mm-hmm.
she goes like, "Why don't you try singing?" You know, because apparently she heard me singing like on the radio, like when we're riding up in my dad's car or around the house. Like, why don't you try singing? So this community college had a small school of music, very small, like just a small building. I went in there totally unprepared because I did not know what to expect. I just knocked on the door, on the dean's door, and I was like, so I want to try singing. And she was like, what do you have prepared? And I'm like, nothing. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to prepare. Like, okay, no worries. So she invited me into the office, and she sat down on her piano and started playing, and she just said, just repeat or try to sing what I play. So she played a couple notes, and I repeated it, and she was like, okay, I'll give you a teacher. You'll have a voice teacher. And that's how it all started. I've never, so I was 17, 18, and I had never ever sung classically,
Mm-hmm.
in my life. And it was very, very new to me, singing in these other languages too, Italian and
Mm-hmm.
French, and so that's where it started. But yeah, and then there was one day that I remember distinctly when I fell in love, and I said, this is what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life. I want to do this. I It was a homework that I had to do for history class, I think, and I had to do research on this song from an opera. It was by Bizet, Pearl Fishers, and I encountered this audio track of a song that I needed to listen to. And it was a song from that opera. It was an aria called Je crois. It was a tenor who was singing. I don't remember the name of the tenor. I just remember listening
Mm-hmm.
and the way that he sung, the way that he expressed himself just by listening to that song, to that aria. I started crying just out of nowhere. And I didn't even know what he was saying. It was all in French. I was just starting, and I don't even know, but the way that he expressed himself, the way that he, I don't know, portrayed and interpret the song and his voice and his anguish and the sadness and the feelings
Mm-hmm.
that were portrayed, it got to me, and I was like, if I can do this, I mean, if I can reach to this level, this is what I want to do. And I was like, okay, this is definitely what I want to do in my life, and that's where I started, researching more and putting all these feelings into it. But that comes later in life.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's how I fell in the industry,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's so unique too, because I mean, I don't know much about vocal artists. I don't even, I think that's the right term, but it seems like people start at a young age too. So starting even later on, I think is kind of cool to be, realizing like, oh, this is a unique talent I actually have, and
Yeah.
I want to go with this. And I mean, just even listening to musicians, on the radio or the celebrities, it seems like a lot of them start at such a young age with singing, and so I think it's cool that you kind of discovered that a little bit later, but kind of at a pivotal time too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think it's because, and as you know, because my family,
Hmm.
especially my sister and my brother-in-law, you know that we're very artistic. I
Hmm.
mean, my dad is an illustrator. He does, very nice paintings and drawings. And he met my mom when they both were taking in college. They were taking animation classes. So my mom has also some kind of artistic
Hmm.
um, seed in it. And then my sister, she's a graphic designer, and she
Hmm.
also illustrates. And my brothers, they also are into music. One is in percussion, the other one raps and does hip hop, and he loves that. And I was into it for a little while with him. So we are very, we're within that same, zone. And and my dad actually, I remember also this when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. One day, my dad just brought um, this tape because back in those days we had tapes.
Yeah.
Um, so he brought this tape with, and I remember that it said the word Schubert on it.
Hmm.
And he will put it on and played it, and it was this quartet of cellos and violins and pianos, and I would listen to that also
Hmm.
without knowing what it was,
Yeah.
but it was just pretty and nice and so I knew, I guess, in an early age that I liked that. I just, I discovered it later in life when I was already here in the US.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, what I guess my next question was sort of why is this work so meaningful for you to keep doing?
Um, I think it goes into what I've probably been trying to say is like music for me has always been meaningful, and I think that applies to oof, most people.
Hmm.
Um, and you probably have found yourself sometimes that you listen to a certain music depending on the mood that you are in.
Hmm.
And I've also find that myself, but I don't listen to just classical music. Whenever I'm happy, I just listen to
Hmm.
Latin music, or if I'm cleaning, I listen to something more. So if I want to remember my high school days, I listen to hip hop, rap, old school stuff. It all depends. I think it's a way of expression,
Hmm.
and that's why I also fell in love with this industry, because there's a lot of stuff that you can interpret. There's a lot of stuff that you can make people. feel.
Mm.
And that's for me, that's for me, that's my main goal is to pass them on something that they can take home and remember it, and feel
Mhm.
it, and it could be anything, because opera is not just drama, but there's also laughter and there's sadness and there's happiness. So it depends on what you want to hear or what it transmits to you. So I think that's why I find this very meaningful because it helps you express a lot of stuff, and not just feelings, but also social and political stuff too. So, which has been actually the recent works for the last few years with everything that has been happening in societies. There's a lot of new operas, new works that have emerged because of the things that have been happening politically or in the society.
Mhm.
So it's a great way to express ourselves. And the other reason why I find this meaningful also is because um, I also try to, with my students,
Mhm.
I try to also make them aware that that this music, it's alive, and that it might be new to them, but as long as they can appreciate the music, because I know that my students might not become like pianists as a profession, or singers, classical singers. If they do, great. But if they don't, then at least I know that I have passed them on the importance of this music, and to appreciate it. That's the bottom line, for them to appreciate this music is the goal that I would
Right.
like to give them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's funny when I think about what you're saying with the music, wanting to listen to different genres, different moods. I definitely have that, when I'm listening to, even before I do these lives, I listen to upbeat music because it sort of
Yeah.
gets me, in that headspace. And but when I used to teach, I was teaching at a boarding school for a few years, and I would listen to classical music when I was grading papers because I would just be like, gotta get everybody else out of
Right.
my ears, but I can't have my
Yeah, 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 yeah,
so
yeah, yeah. Because I do the same thing. I mean, I put myself to sleep with classical music, which is another kind of thing because it relaxes you. For me, it just
yeah.
relaxes.
Hmm.
Not all classical music,
Yeah. Yes.
but there are some that are very very nice, and there are some that are like crazy good, and they're like bombastic and fantastically, and you
Hmm.
can fall with that. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And my favorite type of music to play piano when I was growing up was always classical and jazz, which is kind of, but I did like that, the deep melancholy feeling of classical, like Beethoven, and then like Moonlight Sonata. And then with jazz, it was kind of more fun, but still had the depth to it too. So,
right.
yeah.
Oh no, jazz is great. Jazz is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, well, that's great. And so it's so cool that, you're growing up in a family too that supports, not only supported you and your creative expression, but took note of that at a young age and then kind of circled back to it when you came to the US, your dad noticing that. And I think that's really cool. Um, so, you had mentioned you do freelance work now, and I know you're kind of working on a couple different things. So, for you, why has it been so important for you to kind of create that kind of work for yourself? Having that freelance work with the opera singing and piano teaching, right?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, again, I think it's for me. I think it has been important just to keep the talking about opera. I think it's important to keep this kind of form of expression alive, and to create um, myself to create these opportunities for me. It's as an artist is hard in this industry because there's so many of us that that they would like to be more involved in the industry and to perform here, to perform there. And sometimes you have to create your own um, way to have the opportunity to actually um, show your instrument.
Hmm.
And again, I think it's important just to create and to keep this form alive, just to express anything that has been happening around recently, politically, societally, in the society. It's a very good way to express those feelings. It's just like back in the days, some of these they apply. Um, I give you an example. There's this opera called La Boheme that I've been doing recently, and it's um and it's about these four friends. They live in poverty. Basically, two of them are artists, or three of them actually are artists, and they live in poverty. And it's the usual story of the tenor falling in love with a soprano, and it's a love story, but it's so deep into society too because they live in poverty, but they're happy at the same time, and they try to make ends meet. But at the same time, it's like they keep themselves positive, and they try to do as much as possible just to keep up with the daily life. And it applies also. I mean, this was written so long ago, but that opera is still very much in the present.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's a very good expression of just, that you can show it. It was composed so long ago, but for that opera, for that art, or for that work to still be, you know, alive right now, I think it's amazing. It's amazing how a lot of these operas were written so many years ago and they're still, alive because it applies to what we're living right now.
Hmm.
So it's amazing how we keep expressing ourselves with these works, and it's great that there have been also adaptations to these works, so they can be applied to other things, new things that have come up recently. So it's great that we have all these opera or smaller opera companies around this area, especially around DC, that give us the opportunity to express ourselves with all these different operas. Um, but yeah, and then creating opportunities for myself also as a teacher has been also it was very I never thought that I was going to be when I was back in school. I never thought I was going to be a piano teacher,
Yeah.
but I just, one day I just started teaching a kid piano and I enjoyed it and it just started falling on my lap with like,
Hmm.
recommendations. And suddenly now I have 20 students who I teach and it's like, but I enjoy it because like I said before, I feel like creating this opportunity for me to teach them is also an opportunity for me to pass on the love of music, the admiration of it, and the importance of learning this art. Which again, like I said before, they can pass it on too, or they can admire it later on, or they can appreciate it later on. So creating this opportunity for me has also created opportunity for them and it's kind of like a thing that they can just pass on afterwards, and
Hmm.
they talk to their little friends about it in school, or the parents talk about it with other parents, and it's creating more and more and more opportunities for other people.
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like just from my limited knowledge with opera too, that it sounds like there's this keeping these old ancient stories alive through music. I feel like in the past, and historically, that's how people passed on knowledge and information was through stories, through songs, and I do think that has gotten lost in our modern society a bit. So it sounds like it's sort of going back to that ritual of expressing in a certain way, through dance music, and then also sharing knowledge and stories that that even though they're in the past, are still relevant to things now, like the moral of the story or the lesson
Right.
you can learn. Yeah, so I think that's great. I also think you would be a very fun piano teacher.
Thanks. I try. It's just so fun to when I teach the students, because they usually are. There's a huge range of my students, but mostly they're kids from 6 years old to like 12. And whenever I'm in the class, I turn into a kid too. So
Yeah,
yeah.
great. So one of the things I do talk about, what I mentioned briefly in the beginning with positive psychology, looking
Hmm.
at your strengths. And I think a lot of times people have this notion, and, we do get a lot of these messages in society, fix this, fix that, work on this in yourself, which is, to some degree, I think helpful. But then I think there somewhere along the way we've lost this sight of things that people are naturally good at, and just focusing on those. And so a lot of what I like to talk about, and the work I've done with people and when I studied my master's, is looking at people's strengths. What do people do naturally well, and then how do you just put more energy and intentional thought into cultivating those, rather than, oh, here's this thing I'm really like, it's frustrating, it doesn't come that easy to me, but I feel like I need to be getting better at it. And so I was curious what, you thought your strengths are and how they're showing up in the work you're doing now.
I think my strength are two: trying to stay positive
Hmm.
and patient.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of that involves in this work also, in this industry, um, especially this past year.
Yeah.
That has really tested my these strengths that I'm talking about. But in generally, yeah, I try to stay positive as much as possible, and because there are things that will, you think they will go one way, but then they usually don't. So um, so you just try to keep yourself, you know, just keep going and trying to overcome whatever is in your path. It could be a small thing, but it could also be a very big thing. And staying positive has have helped me a lot to go through stress. For example, if I am learning new music and it's not getting into my head. So I just try to stay positive, forget about it for a second, and come back to it, and keep going and practice it. Uh, they have also the positiveness have also helped me stay um, stay in touch with other people that are not as positive.
Mm.
So I kind of try to stay positive so they can also stay within that that mentality. So and that helps a lot because I work a lot with a lot of great people that sometimes they need that.
Mm.
And sometimes I need it too. Sometimes I forget that I have it, and I can see my friend Kyle right here on his live, and he's a great positive guy. He's amazing because and it's funny that he's here because he reminds me a lot of this positive that I'm talking about. We did an opera together, Carmen, last year, and he will always come with a smile and just hug everybody.
Mhm.
So even if you had a bad day, for example, Kyle will be there to like just give you a hug, just because he just felt like it. So and that kind of positive feeling raise it just boosts you up. It's just, calms you down. It makes you breathe even better. So, that's something that I also try to just keep on going. And patience. I mean, patience, especially also again on my career in this industry, you gotta have patience just for again studying the music or dealing with other singers and people and directors and because everyone has a different pace and you cannot expect everyone to have your own pace, you know, and you just have to have that patience so you can at the end meet the goal calmly and and because there's always that one goal that you want to reach and as long as we all reach it at the same time and so that's the two things that I think that I try to practice as much as possible.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think especially, certain industries have been hit harder, obviously, with COVID and being shut down, especially, if you're a performing artist.
Uh,
It's been interesting to see how people have creatively adapted to the situation and, what we're all doing now and trying to so I'd even argue too, because I know you've come up with some different offers and things that you had, kind of pivoting and being creative, even on like adapting to the situation that we're in.
Totally. No, it has been crazy year with my industry was totally shut down and it has been a test again of patience and
Hmm.
positive because there was nothing and at some point there was just nothing going on
Hmm.
and just to we go back again to creating and opportunities for myself so that I can keep up with my passion not only because I missed it but also financially
Right.
uh, it was a lot of my peers that would hit hard and you got to create yourself invent or reinvent yourself in a different kind of and look at a different perspective now. Okay, what now do I need to do because this art was or this industry it's very connected with the presence of like people like right there in your face like watching you in performances and so all of that was gone. So now how do I reach them? How do I share my um, my art with them? So we had to find different ways to do it now, and thankfully we live in a time that we have this,
I know.
that we have the virtual connection because forget about it back in the 1800s or 1900s. So
Yeah.
um,
Or even
so
just, you know, the AIM instant messenger days, with
oh
the
my God, yeah. Would you
dial-up
imagine?
computer, it would be a shit show with everybody trying to.
Yeah, no, forget it. Imagine me singing Figaro while typing. Figaro, Figaro, Figaro.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and maybe this might segue into the next question of, I think a lot of time with freelancers or entrepreneurs, I think those two things kind of go hand in hand because you're essentially creating your own opportunities, your own work, and doing it in your own individual way. And confidence is something that comes up a lot, with people, and especially if you're trying to do things outside the box, maybe
Right.
not traditional. I think especially with creative people and artists, that's probably something that you always have to deal with is, you're not doing a professional career the same way a lot of people are. And I can imagine, and I've experienced this a lot as well, just, keeping confident and how, so I was curious how you sustain that confidence, what helps you keep confident with pursuing your goals and creating these things with your passion.
Um, I think that the first thing that comes into my mind is the love that I have for this
Hmm.
for this career that I have chosen. Um, the way of again expressing the eagerness of expressing myself, the eagerness of showing uh, or interpreting a character, interpreting a song. Um, that that I think it gives me again the confidence and the boost just to stay on this a little longer. You know. Um, Aside from that, the people around me also. First of all, my family. You know, always asking me, "How are you? How are you doing? You can do this." You
Yeah.
know, especially last year. And they know that as an artist it's hard because you're always looking and you're always auditioning. It's like applying for a job every 3 months,
Yeah. Yes.
so but that confidence that they had in me of like, you can do this, you've been doing it for long, and they trust me, and that gave me a lot of confidence. Co-workers also, peers that hear them and listening to their stories and and helping each other out, uh, calling me and hey, let's do this. Let's just do this concert, or online stuff, or let's just go ahead and just go home or just sing something, just so that you can keep yourself active in your career. Um, so working on projects with them. Also, the audience themselves,
Hmm.
I have, so many people that have, because I repost sometimes stuff that I have done before, a video of me singing, and the support that I receive from them. Hey, we miss you, or hopefully soon we'll see you. Can't wait to hear you again, stuff like that. That also gives me confidence that I have, you know, that I have reached those people, and they and for them to, and just to hear them say that they want to hear me or they want to see me, that gives me more confidence because they keep me alive, and it's for them that I want to keep doing this um, because I know that I bring them some kind of uh, uh, joy, I guess, and uh, and that's what keeps me. That's what my confidence is there. I think it'll, and yeah, I think hopefully it'll keep going for a while.
Yeah, so it sounds like just staying connected to your why of why you want to do this, and having a good support system, I think can definitely make a huge difference, especially as a freelance artist.
Yeah, 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 definitely, yeah, yeah. Because you have to, there's a lot of things that we go through. Um, there's a lot of training to do, there's a lot of studying to do, there's a lot of sacrifice hours of just studying for a role,
Mm.
and or anything, concerts, and there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of things that we do behind
Yeah.
or the actual, the performance. You go and see the opera, oh, that's great, but there has been so much work before that, so much research that you have to do also to get to the point that you want to get. So all of that hard work pays off
Right.
when when at the end of the night or at the end of a performance, someone
Hmm.
uh, approaches you and says, "Hey, great job," from a stranger, and that. I think that's for me. That's. I was actually talking to Carla last time. My family. I work at a church also.
Hmm.
I'm a cantor at a church in Virginia, and and we've been getting back into singing recently. So one, it was last Sunday that we finished a service, where I sang, and we are up on the loft of the church, all the way in the back of the church. And as I was on my way down, there's an old lady who was coming up the stairs, and and she saw me and she was like, are you the singer? And I was like, yeah, I'm the singer. I'm the singer. First thing that she did was she grabbed me by my arm and she said, thank you. And she just started crying. And I hugged her. I was like, oh my God, what's going on, right? So, and she said that, it was just, a nice, she just felt that it was a nice service and that the singing part was very nice. And she just thanked me for it. That right there, feels me, it's just reboost my fuel. Like I was like, that made my week basically, or my month or my year. Like I haven't seen anyone, react in that way. But that's the whole purpose. And again, that gives me more confidence. I'm just keep doing what I'm doing because I feel like that I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that makes sense. That's a cool story.
yeah.
Very cool. And I wanted to give a shout out to, I think he's still on here, my friend. He's a chef. He did the first, he kind of inspired me to do these interviews. And so he was the first one that, hopped on or we did it on his Instagram, but I just wanted to say, hey. He's also somebody super inspiring that, I feel like it's this theme of, I see with people who are staying connected to something that they love. That's what kind of sustains them over time, especially, when stuff comes up like this past year, or, maybe there's that lull in between your gigs of, okay, when's the next gig gonna happen? And so I think, people who have a love for what they're doing, even if it's not the whole picture, part of it, or have a meaning, of why they're doing it, that can help sustain you, I think, through a lot of the obstacles. So,
Yeah.
and the next thing I wanted to chat about, because this is something I think people talk a lot about too, is the fears that come up. For you, I was curious as an artist, what are a lot of the fears that come up, and how have you managed to work around them?
Well, I think that the fear that I never thought it was going to come, it came with the pandemic, because it took us by surprise. It took us with what the industry that I'm in. I mean, it took us by surprise totally.
Mm-hmm.
And, within days, everything was shut down. Contracts were lost. So that was a fear that I never thought that I was going to go through. You know, I never even thought about it until it hit, and I realized, and I was like, okay, all right, so we're in this. Like, what's going on? Like, what's going to happen to us, right? So, um, I think you said how do I overcome the fears?
Yeah,
Or
because sometimes it's not even that you overcome them, it's just that, you have to figure out how to adapt and work around them, right?
right, and that's and like we said before, I think we just have to find new ways of showing it and trying to stay alive, recreating ourselves. In this case, the virtual thing was the only thing, was a to go thing, and for artists, it was it was interesting. It was a transition that, it was for me, it was weird at the beginning. It was like, how are we gonna do this? So there were different things that we had to adapt to. Um, um, like to give you an example, like for me, I've always had my piano students and voice students, and I've always go to their house and teach them, and it's face to face, person in person learning. So you know play them here, make them play games with me and card games, and show them how to play it on the keyboard. So but then to transition into the virtual part is like, how do I connect with them now? How do I, because some of them, they lose attention really quick. So I had a way to gain back their attention, but now that we're virtual, how am I going to be able to control that? So we started I started coming up with different stuff now because I had to like recreate my method. Uh, so I started applying different stuff. I even created a board game, not I put on the camera on the video, and I put it all like on my bed, like it's all kind of like a snake kind of thing with cards and is with colors. And I have this little monkey that I use, like I'm on my piano right now. So so I have all these other stuff. I have puppets and I have other games that I use, visual games with cards. So I just had to um, recreate and find, and you find yourself that you are able to do other stuff that you didn't think that you were able to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's pretty cool because, you know, uh, creating for me, for example, to create a board game, a music or a piano board game, it was like, how did I come up with this? It was just something that it just came up and I did it. And I even did a music dice that I throw. I don't know how, but it became popular within my students, and now they play it all the time, and we play it all the time. So that's
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty cool. I don't know. It's just reinventing yourself and trying to find ways that it will, in times as desperate as as we still are,
Yeah.
you always try to find ways to communicate your especially in this industry, to communicate your art.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so thankfully, also opera companies also adapted to this virtual thing. So we were able to record from home, and they will gather the information, and then they'll put it together. So we did concerts, virtual concerts like that. They're doing some great stuff. Other companies, visually, uh, they're doing animations with opera singers. So and that's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, we just, that fear that we went through, or that we're still going through. Thankfully, there's more positiveness this year with the vaccine.
Yeah.
Um, but we're still going through it, and we just were able to ride the wave.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the support of friends and families and peers and opera companies that were able to trust that we were still able to sing. Um, it has been a big help to overcome, or not to overcome, like you said, but to to still try
Mm-hmm.
uh, and show the audience that we can still do and show our instrument, our art, and our
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I like to talk about too with people is, I think that your fears don't really go away. I think they're there, and sometimes they're louder and sometimes they're not as loud. And but what I found with myself, and I have to often remind myself this too, taking action, just like, okay, what's the next step? What's
Right.
next? Because when you get kind of stuck in that, I don't know what to do, especially, I know with people who have restaurant, I have friends that are chefs or in the restaurant industry, and I follow a lot of comedians too. I think I remember you telling me you did a stand-up, or was that something we talked about? You
Um,
stand-up comedy?
yeah.
Briefly?
Well, it was the opera that I did last year, Carmen.
Okay.
My role was Scamillo, who's the bullfighter.
Oh, cool.
Uh, but okay, so this opera Carmen was adapted by the company In Series, and the director Timothy Nelson. He adapted it into something different. So my character ended up being a stand-up comedian.
Oh, okay.
And it was mostly improvised, because I just come in, in front of the audience, and I had a very thick Spanish accent, and I just started, messing around with people and with the orchestra, and it was, yeah. So it was pretty cool.
That's fun. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I say with the pandemic, I, follow a lot of them, and it's been interesting to see how, they adapt. And I think they were even doing like drive-in comedy shows at RFK, which is kind of neat.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, Yeah, I think, just that whole piece of, okay, how can we move forward? And I think, anybody who's creative, and one of my master's classes was on creativity and the psychology of it. And a lot of times people don't realize that constraints are actually good for creativity. Um, Sometimes we need those to, you know, think outside the box or adapt or make things happen. Because, if there's too much open space, too many options, too many things you can do, you can kind of get stuck. And so I think, looking at sometimes as constraints like pandemic, obviously the pandemic, has its really awful components to it, but from a professional standpoint, with your work, it can be, how can I pivot? How can I adapt and work with this constraint? And so I think it's great, especially having support from the opera companies and them, trying to keep the passion alive and keep people in touch with their art and sharing it and doing virtual piano lessons. I think I remember seeing something online to a teacher who had a kindergarten teacher who had set up their kitchen. I think it was a guy. He had set up his kitchen, and the back of it had like what would look like a classroom, like books, like little planets.
Yeah.
So when the kids were looking at him, it looked like he wasn't in his kitchen. I thought that was, I don't know, I thought that was cute. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. So that's great. With your piano teaching, you've been able to come up with different strategies to keep the kids engaged and learning, and I'm sure they're very appreciative of that too. It's not a lot of stimulation for them at the moment either. So,
Right.
and you've talked about this a bit in, the support system for you seems to be, your family, having a family of people who support your creative expression and your art, and
Right.
being in a network. I was curious if there's anything else that's really stood out for you as far as what has helped you feel supported, or what support helps you continue going.
Well, I think that also aside from from what I said before, the family and friends
Mhm.
and coworkers have also been the companies, the opera companies themselves of not giving up on us, you know. Um, they have found ways for us to still create, for us to still have our voices heard. I talk particularly about this small opera company in the DC area in series, who have been years in the area, and they have been showing a lot of these new projects that I was telling you about, these new projects that
Mhm.
actually talk about what's going on in our times in society. And again, it's a way to express, and I think they're doing an awesome and great job of doing that. Not only expressing what's happening around us now, but also adapting it in a way that it's more interesting also for the audience
Mhm.
and for us too as artists. There's a lot of stuff. For example, I was telling you about the where I was a stand-up comedian, right?
Yeah.
That to me was like new,
Yeah.
but I think I f- it felt so good to do that. That director, I think he knew that I could do it, and he trusted me to do it, and it ended up being a very, very nice time that I had, because the audience just enjoyed it a lot, and then my the other singers that were on stage with me and the musicians also, they got involved into it, and it was very, very, very fulfilling. So, and now what they're doing, for example, these opera companies are now transitioning into doing all virtual stuff, and they still give us that opportunity to to express and to let us interpret all these characters or songs or what have you. And I think the support that we have had from them, it's great. Especially small companies,
Mhm.
small companies, they go through a lot of stuff, um, to just to give us the opportunity for us to show that.
Mhm.
And and it was hard for them. It was hard for all of them to in this time, and but they still made it happen, and that to me is amazing. That to me it's just, and the trust that they have on us, it's just unbelievable. So
Hmm.
that's great to have that from them.
Yeah, that is. I think that's great. That's awesome that they're so supportive, and especially at this time, without having normal performances, still caring. I would say, not everybody works for people that care about them in that way, care about their art, their how they're doing, putting them in a role that fits them best. So I think that's great. So what, with your journey and the work you've done, what some advice you would give to somebody maybe at the beginning stages of something they might be really interested in but are kind of nervous to get started? And I know for you it sounds like it was right around when you went to Montgomery Community College and had that feeling of, okay, this is what I want to do. And what helped you, or what advice would you give to people that, to kind of take that leap?
For me, it was it was two things. Thinking that this is what I want to do, this is my passion,
Mm-hmm.
but also hitting reality about it what what comes with what I want to do. And there's a lot of letdown in my industry because when I got out of college, I felt great about my voice. I felt great about where I was, artistically with my voice. But then I got out of college and I found out that there was like 1,000 of me, a thousand baritons, 1,000 Alexes, all over. And it was hard for me because I was like, I did not know there were this many opera singers in the area, and for me that hit it. Um, so for me, it's just to whatever you do, it's just don't give up. Because this is what opera singers do like every single time. We just try and try. We knock on the door here, we knock on the door here. We have door closed at us, but we just don't give up, and we just keep trying, and we keep trying, and we keep trying. And that's where the patience and the positive that comes too. Uh, and it's very, very important because not everyone is gonna like what you do, and it's not because you're doing it wrong, but it's in my industry. It's because of if they like it. There's a way of they already have an image of what they want, and you might have the voice, but you don't have, I don't know, well, you might have a different kind of voice. I'm a lyric baritone, and they're like, there's a bass baritone, there are basses, and your voice sounds too dramatic for this role, or your voice sounds too high for this role. So it's all about the image that other people have. But that doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It just means that you just need to keep going, and keep practicing. So I would just say that, just don't give up. Always take care of your instrument, take care of the voice. That's your livelihood. So you gotta stay just 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 uh just be careful with the voice. And but in general, because I had that before. I didn't sing for a while, and that's when I got into theater, because I was an actor too. And but that I felt like that was also great that happened to me, because I found that I felt really comfortable on stage when I became an actor, a theater actor. And now I apply that into opera. So now when I sing on stage, I can just do whatever I want because I'm on stage, and if I need to cry, I'll cry. If I need to being a theater actor helped me a lot get into the character. before singing. So I do research. I study the character as a person, as a human, and then I interpret that person through my voice. So being an actor helped me to find and to do the research and to look at the themes and expressing them. And now I take that into the opera, and that also helps me. So yeah, no, just just don't give up. Just keep trying and trying and trying because there are opportunities out there, and especially when you're beginning on this industry, you just gotta keep updating yourself and keep practicing and keep uh, vocalizing and learning new music and learning new roles until you find yourself what you also feel comfortable with. I'm I don't feel comfortable singing certain roles. I'm not there yet. But with whatever I can work right now, I put myself into it and I apply it and I do it and I sing it here, I sing it there until I feel good about transitioning to a different role or a different character. So yeah, you just gotta keep going without giving up. Yep.
That's great. So, what are some of the projects? Do you want to tell us what you're working on now?
So again, it's just been such a weird year
Yeah.
that a lot of these projects, I would usually be like full all year with, singing at this opera house, singing at this one, singing at this one. The cool thing is that we've been able to keep up. So right now there is, I did a recording of an opera, which is La Boheme. It's called Boheme in the Heights. It's within series. And what they're doing is we recorded our voices, the singers, and they're gonna put our voices into an animation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's gonna be some drawings and there's gonna be some animated people. So I'm gonna be animated, and basically we recorded our voices and now it's gonna be showed as I guess kind of like a movie, like an opera movie, in a movie.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's gonna be. I think it's gonna premiere in May
Okay.
virtually in series.org. Then I have what else do I have? I have uh, concerts that are coming up. There are already online. If you go to my website, alexalburqueque.com, there's gonna be concerts that are already up by other companies too. The other things that are coming up, I have a summer opera workshop for high school students.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so we do that with Opera Nova. We do it. This is gonna be our third year doing it. Last year we did it virtually. This year we're gonna do it in person and taking all the necessary steps so we can do it carefully. But yeah, so it's a great workshop because we get students that want to pursue, I guess, a career in opera. They're in high school, and they want to prepare themselves to go to college at some point. So we prepare them, and we gather around these great singers and educators, and it's just a whole. I think it's about 2 weeks of workshop and it's an intense workshop. So we got him to sing, pronunciation, theory, even opera business, acting, breathing exercises. I mean, the whole works for the opera.
Yeah.
So, and then I have random, things that it always shows up in my website or in my Facebook or Instagram. I always put like videos with I work with this pianist. She's amazing, Marie Paz, who's actually connected. I think right now she's watching us.
Okay.
So we work together, and sometimes I go to her house, and we just randomly just record ourselves singing some kind of songs, and generally in Spanish, and I just put it up there, just so that people can enjoy something if they like to. And then we have gala concerts. The Washington National Opera is having a gala concert, a virtual gala concert, and I'm going to be part of the chorus with them. We're going to record. I'm going to record next week. So yeah, I have, you know,
Great.
something going on at
Yeah.
least this year, and hopefully more will come as the year hopefully keeps getting better.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, more of these works will come up. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if there were any outdoor theater or outdoor um, performances happening this summer since the weather's.
I'm not sure about the summer. I know, yeah, there must be. I know that the Kennedy Center, the Washington National Opera, the Kennedy Center, they do outdoor concerts at the Reach, which is the new building that they have built right beside the
Mhm.
Kennedy. So I know they do that a lot during the summer. So that they do. Other performances, outdoor performances that I know of,
Yeah.
not as
Yeah.
now, but
Anything.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that they're gonna come up since the weather is getting nicer too.
Yeah.
I'll probably do one. So
Okay.
who knows?
So if anyone wants to hear you sing, where can they
Was that?
I said if anybody wants to hear you sing, where should we go? Your website or do you have videos?
Yeah, my website, www.alexalburqueque.com. I try to always update my any upcoming performances. It's been slow this year, but obviously things are gonna come up. We already have a couple well, yeah, there's a gala concert coming up in the In Series company, and there's another concerts that are thankfully are coming back for the next season, the 2021-2022
Cool.
season in October. So there's a lot of projects that are coming back. Hopefully, I'll be traveling also to Colombia and hopefully doing an opera there or something. So, but I'll definitely keep my website updated for those.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was fun.
Thanks,
Thank
Rachel. It was
you.
awesome. It was so cool seeing you.
Yeah, you too. And I'm happy to hear that, things are evolving and working out despite, so much of I think your industry being shut down. It's cool to see, what you're still creating and staying connected to your work and especially now that we're sort of emerging out of this pandemic hole. I think you have a lot of energy to put into your upcoming projects. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Positive and confidence.
Yes. And hopefully we'll be able to play soccer again soon.
Oh, totally. I can't wait for you to score on me again.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's so good to see you. And
Thanks, Rachel.
all right. Bye.
Bye.